I don't know if all of you can hear all of the buzz behind us, but this is a happening place. I mean, there were thousands, literally thousands of people who are here at Podcast Movement. I think the last count I heard was 3,000 people are here at Podcast Movement. And there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of excitement. All right, this is a special edition of Heart to Heart with Anna. I am currently at Podcast Movement 2019 in Orlando, Florida, and I am in a bona fide studio today. I have two of the board members of Hearts Unite the Globe. And for those of you who are longtime listeners, you know that Hearts Unite the Globe is a nonprofit organization that funds all of the activities for Heart to Heart with Anna, Heart to Heart with Michael, and Heart to Heart with Nicole and David. So it is a true honor to be here. I want to thank Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout is the sponsor of this recording today. And for those of you who don't know, Buzzsprout is also one of the hosts of Heart to Heart with Anna. And so you can always head over to buzzsprout.com and you can find all of the Heart to Heart with Anna episodes. Today's program is called Behind the Scenes with Hearts Unite the Globe, and I have two wonderful guests. My first guest is my better half, Frank Jaworski, and I have been married for over 33 years. We have two sons, Alexander and Joseph. Alexander was born with a single ventricle heart, and so Frank, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll get to Laura Redfern in just a moment. But Frank, why were you a founding member of Hearts Unite the Globe?
First of all, because I'm married to you, yes. And it was part of the package, but also because I believe in the mission of Hearts Unite the Globe. I believe that what we're doing, spreading information and making people more aware of what's out there, what other people are going through, and that they have company on this journey is very, very important, and it's worth my time and effort.
That's perfect, and that's why I love you so much, Frank, because you are so awesome and so supportive. But one of my other great supporters is also here today, and that is Laura Redfern. She's one of my best friends. She's a Toastmaster. She's a financial advisor, and for those of you who are longtime listeners, you may remember that she was a previous guest on Heart to Heart with Anna, where she actually talked about financial planning for those in the Heart community. But you're not here in that role today. Today you are here as the Secretary for Hearts Unite the Globe. So, Laura, tell us why you joined the board.
Well, also, like Frank, it's because I love Anna dearly, and anything that she says is worthwhile because that's just the kind of person that she is. But aside from that, when she told me about her journey and her story with her son and how congenital heart defects are the number one birth defect, my mind was blown. I didn't know that. I didn't have anyone in my family affected by that. But seeing what a large effect it is on the population, it gripped my heart. So I thought, gosh, what can I offer to this organization? And as Anna kind of jokingly mentioned, I'm the secretary. I can take really good notes. So I help by doing that. But it's also really fun for me. And it's really wonderful to have that sense of altruism with your friends, to be doing something that makes a difference in the world. And the power of the podcast, which we'll talk about a little later, is just a way to touch people in the world that you don't even know. And that was very, very powerful. So I thought that was a great mission and jumped right on board.
Well, I've loved having you, and you are so self-deprecating. You do so much more than just take notes. Laura keeps us organized. She keeps us on track. And she's such a great record keeper. So if we ever have a question about what did we say we were going to do or anything, there's Laura. She's always on top of that for us. So I just love having you as part of the mission, but you're also so creative. And I love how your creativity has helped to evolve HUG into what it is today. You too, Frank. That's a big part of HUG. We're a small board, and so every person's voice really counts. And I love how we have such a diverse board. I mean, Frank is in the medical community, Laura is in the financial community, and Laura also had trained as a teacher, so she has that service background that really adds so much to HUG. And then we have Jack, who is our president, who is, from the legal standpoint, he's a lawyer, and he brings a whole other skill set to HUG, which really, really helps us. And then, of course, we have Nancy Miller, who unfortunately is not here today. She is our treasurer, and she brings financial expertise to Hug. So we really, really are lucky with Hug to have so many fabulous people who all happen to be or have been Toastmasters. And so we all have that in common as well. Right now, I'd love to know what Hug means to you, Frank.
Well, what Hug means to me is that even though our son Alex, who has gone through 3 open heart surgeries, is an adult and is more or less on his own and makes his own decisions for his health care, that we can still contribute to the congenital heart defects community. We can do things positively. We stay abreast of what's developing in the field, and we can help people who are going through what we went through.
Right. Yeah. What does Hug mean to you, Laura?
And I just come back to your tagline, which I think is just the most beautiful expression of what you do, and that is, you are not alone.
Thank you.
I just love that. I think that's what Hug means to me and to lots of people across the globe. It really is a hug. Aww. Whether it's you are getting direct support or whether you're just listening and knowing that there are other people out there who can help you, it's something that is supporting people all over the globe.
Well, I'm so glad that you said that, because that was what we were hoping when we founded this organization. Frank and I felt very much alone, even though we were in a hospital, and there were other families there who had children, in fact, with the same heart defect as our son. You still feel very isolated. It's a very frightening feeling, and knowing that you're handing your baby off to a surgeon and your baby may not come back alive to you, it's simply terrifying. So knowing that we can do something maybe to make it a little bit easier for somebody or give them an idea about some way that they can improve their life or their quality of life, that just means so much to me. So I'm so glad that we're all in this together.
Totally.
Okay, Frank, what's your favorite Hug story or experience? We've been doing this for quite a few years now. What's your favorite story or experience?
Wow. Well, my favorite Hug story is the one about the young man from Africa, Elvis. Elvis was a little boy whose mother was struggling to keep him alive and looking for help on the internet, and she managed to find you. Mm-hmm. And through your advocacy, you found him a place in the States, in Texas, where they could come to. And I believe you also arranged for his transportation, too. Is that right? Or was that...
No, but I got lucky that I was in touch with 2 other gentlemen from Africa, and they're actually the ones who made all of the arrangements. But the really, really cool thing was that I was able to drive to Dallas, Texas, and meet them in person.
Absolutely. And
that was really awesome.
That's really the power of the internet and the power of what this show does worldwide, and why it's called Hearts Unite the Globe, because you were able to reach out to them and bring them to Texas. And then you're able to meet them personally and meet Elvis, and to know that he is now in high school.
I know, he's in high school.
Just a wonderful thing. That's probably my favorite story.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite stories. Laura, what's your favorite Hug experience or story?
Anna, mine has to be pretty recent, when we had a call with Michael, who is on your other show, one of the other shows that the Hug Podcast Network sponsors. And it was the first time we got to meet Michael. Most of us on the board know Anna very, very well. But we had only heard about this guy, Michael, who does a show for bereaved parents in the bereaved community. Thought that was really cool, but I'd never met him. So he Skyped into one of our Hug board meetings, and his energy was contagious.
Yeah.
Even though he was across the globe in Israel, he was just bursting with energy, and it came through, and his personality came through. And it really touched me to see that and to realize how far of an extent and a reach that we have, even though we're still kind of in our beginning stages. Like, we have 2 shows now. We're building on more, I know. And the potential and the excitement there was just absolutely contagious. It was wonderful.
Well, Michael Lieben is going to love that story. He is going to love knowing that he made an impression on you.
Shout out to Michael.
Shout out to Michael Lieben.
Texas Heart Institute were offering us a mechanical heart, and he said, "No, Dad, I've had enough. Give it to someone who's worthy."
My father promised me a golden dress to twirl in. He held my hand and asked me where I wanted to go.
Whatever strife or conflict that we experienced in our long career together was always healed by humor.
Heart to Heart with Michael. Please join us every Thursday at noon Eastern as we talk with people from around the world who have experienced those most difficult moments.
Home Tonight Forever by the Baby Blues Sound Collective.
I think what I love so much about this CD is that some of the songs were inspired by the patients.
Many listeners will understand many of the different songs and what they've been inspired by. Our new album will be available on iTunes, Amazon.com, Spotify.
I love the fact that the proceeds from this CD are actually going to help those with congenital heart defects.
Enjoy the music.
Home Tonight Forever.
You are listening to Heart with Anna. If you have a question or comment that you would like addressed on our show, please send an email to Anna Jaworski at anna@hearttoheartwithanna.com. That's anna@hearttoheartwithanna.com. Now, back to Heart with Anna.
Michael does make an impression on a lot of people, and his show is not only for bereaved parents, although he is a bereaved parent himself, but it is for any bereaved people. And I was even on his show after I lost my mother. Michael's show made such an impact on me because I was having trouble sleeping. I was going through some depression after having lost my mother. And I went on his show fairly early after I lost my mom, just a couple of months after I had lost her, because I went on for the May show of Heart to Heart with Michael. And I lost my mother in February. It was only a very short period of time, but after I went on the show with Michael, it's like it healed me on the inside. I think being able to share some of her stories, I was able to leave a legacy of my mom behind. So I think that's maybe one of my favorite hug stories, is what Heart to Heart with Michael did for me and how it helped me to heal and be able to sleep better at night. And that's my hope with Heart to Heart with Michael and Heart to Heart with Anna, is that maybe we can help people sleep a little bit better, or maybe help them appreciate something, maybe travel, something they were afraid to do before. We have somebody on the show like Megan Tones, who just came on and told us about her wonderful travels to China and Japan, and how can somebody with a severe congenital heart defect do that? Megan told us how she did it, and so maybe that will inspire another family to allow their child to go, or maybe another adult who's been afraid to take that trek will listen to Megan and say, wait a minute, if Megan could do it, I can do it. And she gives some real practical advice on what to do so that you don't get yourself into trouble in that situation. So I think that's one of the powers that you were referring to, Laura, about with the podcast, that Megan's from Australia, and yet I was able to talk to her as if she were in this very studio with us.
Love technology.
Isn't
it's
that
great.
amazing?
It's awesome.
I just love
Yes,
it. 20
it is.
years ago, we wouldn't have been able to do this, would we?
No.
Even maybe 10 years ago.
I know, right?
Pretty new still.
It really is. So to me, that's really exciting. Well, Frank, you're at the podcast movement right now here with me, and you've been learning about Patreon. Can you tell us why you became one of Hug's first patrons and what Patreon means to you?
Well, you and I both have been giving of ourselves and our time, and sometimes our money also, to Hug for years and years now. But being in Patreon also is a way to lead other people to become patrons also through Patreon, and set an example, and to show the level of contribution that I hope that all the supporters of Hug can give.
Right. I feel like we're developing a whole new community,
Yes.
and it's a way for everyone else to be vested in Hug, which to me is really, really exciting. Like Laura said, we really are Hearts Unite the Globe. We are reaching out all over the globe. And the great thing about Patreon is you don't even have to spend that much money. For the cost of a pizza, you can be a supporter for a whole year. I mean, there aren't too many things that you can actually do that with. So Laura, tell us why Hug needs Patreon.
Oh, gosh. I think that many listeners, like myself, would be very appreciative of what you do, Anna, and the stories you share, the resources, and they might not know how they can help out. And Patreon makes it so easy. It's really awesome. So many people are used to subscriptions nowadays.
Right,
Subscribe to your radio station that you like, or you can subscribe to your gym. And these are things that maybe you don't use or don't maybe make a huge impact, but they just kind of come out of your bank account automatically. Well, this is similar but very different. You can have it come out automatically on a monthly basis as a subscriber, but rather than a gym membership that you never use, this is really making a difference to the mission and to people across the world. I mean, how cool is that? You can be altruistic. You can put that on autopilot, and you can continue making a difference, I mean, forever.
Right, because as long as we continue to pay our bills, these will be in the archives, and any new families or new survivors who are coming forward, they'll have that right there. If anybody takes any of the pictures of us here in the studio, I'll make sure I share them with all of you later. One of the other things I like about Patreon is it's giving us a chance to give a little bit of bonus information to all of you who love Hearts Unite the Globe and Heart to Heart with Michael. And so Michael and I are going to be making a video, a behind-the-scenes video, because you will not believe where I actually do my podcast normally. I'm not usually in this great studio like what Buzzsprout has set up here at Podcast Movement 2019. And so it really is a lot of fun. Laura is being very creative, and she's actually taking some pictures of us in the studio at the very moment that I'm speaking. And so that's really cool. I'll be sharing some of those with you. But in addition to that, what most of you don't know is that when we're recording these shows, I heavily edit all of my shows. And so usually I will spend about 30 to 45 minutes recording a show, but only 30 minutes makes it into the show that all of you hear. So there's about 15 minutes of material that you will never hear, and sometimes those are the juiciest stories. Those are the most fun things that we talk about, because by the time we get to that point, my guest is totally relaxed, I'm totally relaxed, we're laughing and having fun and cutting up. Well, for those of you who are higher supporters of Heart to Heart with Anna and Heart to Heart with Michael of the Hug Podcast Network, you all will get to see the unedited, nitty-gritty, behind-the-scenes stuff that goes on with the guest and with me. And so, like I said, a lot of times that is a lot of fun. So do consider checking out our Patreon page. It is so easy to find. It's just Patreon, which is patreon.com. And then there's the /Heart to Heart. So it's super easy to remember. And then that will take you to our page, and it describes the different levels that we offer. And you'll get to see some of the cool things that we have in store for you.
They're very cool.
It is really cool. And Michael and I are having so much fun putting this together for you. So do check it out. We haven't released any of the bonus material yet, but I've already done 2 or 3 shows with bonus material, and Michael is working on it as well. So Laura, where do you see Hug going in the future?
Wow. Where don't I see Hug going in the future? I've learned here at Podcast Movement, this is my first year coming here, the power of the podcast. There was actually a session yesterday that was the title, and it was so apt because the gentleman who was speaking talked about his background as a newspaper reporter originally, and how he felt that he was really reaching a large audience through print.
Sure.
Which, back in the day, I think he was talking about the 60s and 70s. Yeah, that was a great way to reach people. But he was excited about the power of podcasts because he said, I used to write in an office with 4 walls.
Yeah.
And then when I put my voice to a podcast, the walls blew away.
Right.
And the ceiling blew off. And now there's no limit. Yeah. And I just caught his excitement there and thought, wow, Anna does a podcast. Michael does a podcast. There are more podcasts I know in the pipeline for Hug. And being a part of that is really exciting. So I think our reach can extend just everywhere, at any place that you can pick up technology and make a difference in people's lives all over the world.
Right. Frank, what about you as a founding member? How have you seen Hug changing over the years, and where do you expect us to go in the future?
Well, if you think back to the roots of Hug, it starts with Baby Hearts Press, which was the first organization that you created in order to produce publications, books for...
old things, like what Laura was talking about.
Yes, exactly.
Still good stuff in old things.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And it's moved forward from there, obviously, through Hearts Unite the Globe and now Heart to Heart with Anna. And I can see more public speaking possibly in the future. And I can also see this podcast growing in ways that we won't even expect, in ways we can't even predict. But I look forward to it. I really want to be part of it, which is why I try so hard to be involved, both through Patreon and directly on the board.
Right, right.
Hi, my name is Jamie Alcroft, and I just published my new book, The Tin Man Diaries. It's an amazing story of my sudden change of heart as I went through a heart and liver transplant. I can think of no better way to read The Tin Man Diaries than to cuddle up in your favorite Hearts Unite the Globe sweatshirt and your favorite hot beverage, of course, in your Hearts Unite the Globe mug, both of which are available at the Hug Podcast Network online store. Or visit heartsunitetheglobe.org.
Heart to Heart with Anna is a presentation of Hearts Unite the Globe and is part of the Hug Podcast Network. Hearts Unite the Globe is a non-profit organization devoted to providing resources to the congenital heart defect community to uplift, empower, and enrich the lives of our community members. If you would like access to free resources pertaining to the CHD community, please visit our website at www.congenitalheartdefects.com for information about CHD, the hospitals that treat children with CHD, summer camps for CHD survivors, and much, much more.
I think one of the most exciting things for me was when we had our first French show, when we had our first Spanish show, and now we have 2 Spanish shows, but we had our first Hebrew show, and I know we're eventually going to have an Urdu show. The way that we really can embrace the world is by not only having our programs in English. We have to have programs in other languages. Heart to Heart with Michael is planning on doing some shows in Hebrew this year, which is really, really exciting to me. This is how we embrace the world, by bringing
Absolutely.
programs to them in their own language. And I'm really looking forward to working with Marta Raquel for Corazon con Marta, and I really hope I didn't mess that up.
No.
Because my Spanish is not great. But we are looking to having a dedicated show in Spanish, and I know that that is going to happen with Marta Montero. Those of you on Facebook know her as Marta Raquel, and she is fabulous. She was the host for the 2 Spanish shows that we did do already, so I know she's going to do a fabulous job, and we're working at putting together a fabulous team to help her. So I agree with both of you. I see where there's almost no limit to where we could go, and I know one of the things that Michael wants to do as a former documentary worker is bringing some more video into what we do so that you all can see as well as hear about what we're doing, and so I'm just so excited about where Hug may go in the future. Well, what have you learned at Podcast Movement, and how will it affect your work with Hug? And I'm going to start with you, Frank, because I know that you have been going to a lot of the Patreon sessions, and that has been really important, but you've gone to some other sessions as well. So what have you learned here that you think you'll be applying to Hug?
Well, some of it does not involve fundraising, which is my primary purpose for Hug right now, but also it's things like learning how to help you to make a better podcast. I attended a session on having the first 2 minutes be extra exciting to make things work faster. And also there was a whole session about learning how to become an influencer and to become an authority. And I think that you are uniquely positioned to do that. So my role in that is going to be to use that information and the ideas that I learned to help you see what you can do for the community. One of the things that this gentleman said, which I really liked, is that sometimes people who are influencers don't realize they're influencers. And I think you're at that point right now, and I've got to help you to see that so you can use your influence more appropriately. The quote he said was, you can't read the label from the inside of the bottle.
Oh, I like that.
Awesome.
That is awesome. Okay, well, that's great. Laura, what have you learned here at Podcast Movement that you think will help you with Hug?
Well, Anna caught me here, so in my secretary mode, I'm looking over my notes that I took at Podcast Movement to look back at, what did I learn? I've learned so much. It's pretty awesome. I think as far as Hug and what will help affect that was I attended a great session on actually psychology and how we can use that to help with our listener journey is how it was framed. And I think that's really cool because what you offer, Anna, is so cool, but I think it needs to get to more people. Right. And so I've learned some suggestions and tips of how to do that. And that'll be a great thing to talk about with the board. I know being a board member who didn't before know anything about podcasting, you would hear, the stories you would tell us and you would deliver, and you'd be like, oh, okay, that's cool. But you don't really get it until you kind of get your feet wet in this industry. So now that I've gotten my feet wet and can really see the bigger picture, and this session is called Behind the Scenes. Right. All the behind the scenes stuff that's involved with making a podcast. Yes. Holy cow. Yeah. I had no idea. So The workload is incredible, but Anna's always done it as a labor of love. And now that I think that more of us are beginning to understand what she's doing, that we can offer more support in more meaningful ways, and not me just saying, hey, can I help you? But, hey, wait a minute. Now that I understand the advertising part, here's an idea. Here's what I can actually do for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yes, for those of you who have never been to Podcast Movement.
Oh, my gosh.
Come.
It's
come.
insane.
It's insane. It's amazing.
In a good way.
It's exciting. And, yes, it makes you want to start a podcast. I mean, I actually saw a person who has a Star Wars podcast, and I thought, oh, Frank needs to go on that podcast.
Oh, that's awesome.
Frank loves Star Wars.
There's like a podcast for everything.
Yes.
I met a lady who has a podcast on quilting.
Yes.
And that's such a tactile thing. You wouldn't think, well, what's a podcast about that? But I'm sure she and her listeners get a lot out of it.
I know. I think my sister and I need to check that out because we are making, don't tell my granddaughter, we are making a quilt for her for Christmas.
Aww.
And maybe they tell us some tips on what we can do that is going to make that work better, because I don't know. I haven't made a quilt for my granddaughter yet, but I've done some of the squares. Now the problem is, how do I put this together so it looks beautiful? I'm trusting you, Chrissy, my sister, to help guide me. Chrissy is using YouTube a lot, and YouTube and podcast goes together. There are a lot of podcasts, including Heart to Heart with Anna and Heart to Heart with Michael, which are also on YouTube. So it kind of brings us full circle, doesn't it? Which is really, really kind of cool. So we're almost out of time, which I can't believe how quickly the time has gone. This is so exciting. I don't know if all of you can hear all of the buzz behind us, but this is a happening place. I mean, there are thousands, literally thousands of people who are here at Podcast Movement. I think the last count I heard was 3,000 people are here at Podcast Movement. And there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of excitement. But you know what I think I love about this conference is that everybody wants to help everybody else.
Yes, it's impressive.
It really
For 3,000
is.
people, you really don't feel like that. You feel like you're here with a whole bunch of friends that you just haven't met yet.
Right, right. And they have this little gamification program where you scan people's badges. And so I have met so many people just scanning their badges. And then you
Because
find
she wants to win, guys. Look
I
out.
want to win. I want to win. It's a competition, but forget it. Somebody already has twice as many points as I do. But that's okay, because I've had a lot of fun just scanning people's badges, finding out what kind of podcasts they do, if they do a podcast. There are a lot of people here who are like Buzzsprout. There are people who support podcasters, and so that's also interesting. There are so many different tools out there that we can use, and that's what I spend a lot of time going to workshops about, is how can I get some different tools to automate some of these things that I'm doing so we can get the word out to even more people about what Hearts Unite the Globe and what Heart to Heart with Anna and Heart to Heart with Michael and the future shows that will be coming into play. How can we get the word out there so that people can find even more information? So I want to thank you, Laura Redfern and Frank Jaworski, for coming on the program today.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. This is great.
I know this is so much fun. Don't you wish we could take this whole studio with us to Texas?
Oh, yeah. This is fantastic.
That would be nice.
I was saying earlier, I love this mic, so I really want to take this mic with me.
I know. Laura's speaking on a Rode mic, and Rode, wow. Rode is an amazing company. Frank and I are talking on Shure mics. Those are also very, very good.
They are good.
And this is just so much fun. It's so much fun to be in a real studio. Usually I'm sitting in my office, which is between my two garages, and I'm sitting in front of my roll-top desk, which those of you who are more high-level patrons, you'll get the behind the scenes. Don't be disappointed when you don't see a highfalutin studio, because it's a really tiny studio. What we're in right now is about 2 or 3 times as big as my regular studio at home. Because my roll-top desk is pretty much my studio. But this is so much fun. I have had a blast today. Friends, if you want to be a member of HUG, then you can do that so simply by either going to our website, which all of you know is heartsunitetheglobe.org. At the bottom of every single page, Brenda Vignaroli, our webmaster, has put a donate button, so you can donate on any page that's on our website. But if you want to be part of the team in Patreon, just go to patreon.com/hearttoheartwithanna and be a member, be a defender, or be an advocate, or any of the other names that I came up with for the tiers.
Just be a supporter.
Just be a supporter.
Just be a supporter.
Subscribe early, subscribe often.
There you go. And just remember, for the cost of a pizza, you can be a subscriber for a whole year, and you can help us out so that we can grow the network. We can have some foreign language programs. We can have more programs that are targeted to certain bereaved communities. We'd love to have a program just for bereaved parents. Sadly, we know in the heart community that we lose way too many people too early. Those people have special needs, and we would love to have a program just for them. And what about our teens and tweens? We need a program just for them. So believe me, at our board meetings, we come up with lots of ideas for different things that we want to do, but we do need a little bit more funding in order to be able to do that. So that concludes this episode of Heart to Heart with Anna. Thanks for listening today, my friends. Join us again next week for a brand new podcast. And until then, remember, my friends, you are not alone.
Thank you again for joining us this week. We hope you have been inspired and empowered to become an advocate for the congenital heart defect community. Heart to Heart with Anna, with your host Anna Jaworski, can be heard every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Time.